Hello and welcome. From the routine of democratic processes to ongoing efforts aimed at tackling insurgency, the last 7 days couldn't just go by without Africa joining the rest of the world in marking the International Women's Day and Press for Progress. It is also a call for groundbreaking actions and purposeful collaborations for women to take control of their lives, advance in their fields of endeavor, and unleash limitless potentials. This is Africa This Week, and I'm your guide, Fadeshala Shotingwa. We start off the day with earlier in the week. Welcome on board. French President Emmanuel Macron expressed support for Benin's political reforms during President Patrice Talon's visit to Paris on Monday, saying they were indispensable. Last year, Talon abandoned plans to reduce the presidential mandate from 2 terms to 1 after Parliament rejected a draft bill to change the constitution. Talon came to power in 2016, promising to reduce the term limit because he said 2 terms were a cause of complacency. Macron also announced a raft of cooperation agreements with Benin, notably in helping develop tourism and cultural preservation. France has also committed to helping Benin battle climate change with a €58 million program to promote sustainable cities. Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman on Tuesday met Coptic Pope Tawadros II at Cairo's largest Coptic cathedral, an unprecedented visit by an official from the conservative Muslim kingdom. The visit was part of a 3-day stay in Egypt for Prince Mohammed, his first public trip abroad since he became their heir apparent last year. He will head for Britain and the United States during the month. Cairo and Riyadh have strengthened ties in recent years, and Egypt has received billions of dollars in aid from its rich Gulf Arab ally. The 2 countries also get up a $10 billion joint fund to develop a planned mega city. The Gulf Arab Kingdom is trying to shed its reputation as a global exporter of an ultra-conservative brand of Islam, which critics say has inspired Islamist militants worldwide. Promoting a more moderate form of Islam is one of the more ambitious promises made by Prince Mohammed under plans to transform Saudi and reduce its reliance on oil. On Wednesday, Sierra Leoneans commenced voting for a successor to President Ernest Bai Koroma in an election dominated by an economic crisis caused by a collapse in iron ore prices and an Ebola epidemic. 16 candidates are vying for the top job, and 4 are seen as having a realistic chance of succeeding Koroma, who has served his maximum 2 terms. A civil war in the 1990s, fueled by diamond conflicts fought in part by child soldiers, killed tens of thousands of people and wrecked the West African country's economy. An iron ore boom this millennium enabled years of double-digit growth after the war. But this was cut short by a 2014 Ebola outbreak and a sharp drop in the price of its vast iron reserves, shrinking the country's economy by a fifth in 2015.
I came to vote for my candidate because I believe that it will bring a better change and it will bring development and it will help this country to go to another higher level. So because of that reason, I am here to cast my vote for him.
Well, the general sort of overview why I choose my candidate is predominantly for a better Sierra Leone, and that's more on a generic level. So we're looking for something or someone that's going to make a change and that's going to make Sierra Leone great again.
Also on Wednesday, Egyptians expressed strong support for President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi winning a 2nd term in office in the upcoming presidential election scheduled to hold from March the 26th to the 28th. Supporters said al-Sisi's challengers are weak and that replacements would not be able to offer what the former military chief offers, and that the current president brings stability in a turbulent region. But beyond the thousands of banners, some Egyptians have expressed their sadness over the current political climate, which has led to an arena void of any real opposition. Candidates challenging al-Sisi have described efforts to kill off their campaigns before they begin, with media attacks and intimidation of supporters. All opposition figures thought to pose a serious challenge to al-Sisi have pulled out of the race, accusing the government of underhand tactics to ensure al-Sisi an easy win.
No, you can't say the withdrawal of all the candidates because two of them are in jail. One was more or less muscled to withdraw, and two others were subjected to smear campaigns and serious harassment that made them withdraw. And then eventually we get this candidate who's not taken seriously. Okay? It's a joke. 24 hours before he declared his nomination, he was a supporter of Sisi. I'm not too optimistic about the way things are going. I don't think that a country being run by an individual and a group of assistants around him, his former colleagues from the military intelligence basically, who advise him on everything from economy to healthcare to education to media, and this attempt to basically commandeer the whole country and take it forward, I don't think this is going to succeed.
Still on Wednesday, South Africa grappled with the world's worst listeria outbreak, with small stores the hardest hit financially as customers feared for their lives. Some of them had to undergo a makeover after health authorities traced the listeria outbreak to a Poloni factory. Poloni is a meat product made by Tiger's Enterprise Food, South Africa's biggest food firm. South African Health Minister Aaron Motsoaledi said the source of the disease, which has killed 180 people since December last year, was found after preschool children fell ill after eating Poloni products. Neighboring states have also acted swiftly. Zimbabwe and Zambia banned imports of South African processed meat, dairy products, vegetables and fruit. Mozambique, Kenya and Namibia halted imports of the processed meat items, and Botswana said it was recalling them. Malawi stepped up screening of South African food imports.
We have to change our game. Now the problem that we're going to have is affordability. Don't forget French and Vienna's are the cheapest things that you can get, even all of this, whether scarf tea or everything, whether it's lunch, that's the cheapest. But now if we have to reinvent the god and have a prego steak or have even fish on it, although we did have it, which means the price is going to go a bit high. Now who's going to afford it again? It's going to affect our business model and it's going to afford even our profit, because we don't expect to have as much people as we do have, because now the cost we're going to go up, yeah.
On Thursday, U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson said more African nations should apply concrete diplomatic and economic pressure on North Korea in order to achieve denuclearization on the Korean peninsula. Tillerson travels to Chad, Djibouti, Ethiopia, Kenya and Nigeria this week on his first trip to Africa as the top U.S. diplomat, seeking to bolster security alliances on the continent.
I reiterate our desire for more African nations to apply concrete diplomatic and economic pressure on North Korea. The goal of the Global Maximum Pressure Campaign, which has been supported by multiple UN Security Council resolutions, is to motivate North Korea to achieve the complete, verifiable, and irreversible denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. African nations can contribute to this goal, and we need country by country for nations to take action to support this international effort towards a denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula.
The United Nations warned on Friday that more than 2 million children in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the DRC, are estimated to be at risk of dying from severe acute malnutrition if they do not get the aid they need. UN spokesman Yen Larke said that UN humanitarian chief Mark Lowcock will meet donors next week in the country, where conditions in many areas are worsening. The 2 million children at risk of starvation include some 300,000 children in the Kasai region. The Kasai region is Congo's biggest security challenge and has been the scene of a growing humanitarian disaster.
2 million kids suffering from acute severe malnutrition who are at risk of dying. You're asking about which time frame? That's very, very difficult to say. I won't pin it down, because then it's like a clock starts ticking. But what is clear is when you're looking at numbers of this magnitude, you know, the urgency couldn't be greater. But where we really hope and expect the donors, traditional donors, new donors, any kind of donors, to step forward and recognize that this is a crisis that, you know, our humanity should include these people, frankly speaking. It is, we have really a big responsibility in the DRC, also as the UN, also as the NGO community, everybody. We've been there for decades. Now is the time to stay the course.
In the Kasai region alone, 3.2 million people are severely hungry. That's 1 in 4 people. Malnourished children at risk of dying are 300,000 at risk of dying. Just think of that, 300,000 little kids.
And with that, we have come to the end of Earlier in the Week. Up next is Digging Deep, and that is after the break. Do stay with us. Welcome back to Africa This Week. At a time where some of the world's biggest problems largely boils down to a lack of equity and equality, it remains difficult to thrive and survive as a young woman than anything else. From contending with social bias and patriarchal perceptions to bearing the brunt of a failed system with a broken smile, women in Africa continue to contribute to social, economic, and political development against all odds. Now, joining me to dig deep on Africa This Week is Betty Abba, a gender activist and advocate and rights activist. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Now, what do you make of the plight and circumstances that women and girls often find themselves, especially in Africa?
I think that is a sad statement on our continent, and to some extent, Africa may have, a woman in Africa may have, may be facing the biggest brunt of patriarchy and of very retrogressive cultures. But in every continent in the world, women have had to grapple with all sorts of cultures that tend to put them down. So it's not really peculiar to Africa, though Africa's home tend to be on another level altogether.
Exactly.
And it's something that really should be looked into. And I'm really happy that we've made progress over the years. I don't want to be very pessimistic. We've made progress. There's still so much to do. Like the Secretary General of the United Nations would say, as part of his speech marking this year's International Day of Women, he said, achieving gender equality and empowering women and girls continue to remain the biggest challenge of our time. It's the unfinished business of our time. That's why we're here. That's why we're making a lot of noise.
Why is it so much of a challenge?
It's so much of a challenge. For instance, you would expect that a Nigerian senator who to some extent is educated, exposed, and ideally is in the Senate to protect the interests of women and girls, of everyone in his constituency, especially the weakest links, which are women and girls, will stand up in public to say very derogatory statements about women and girls, and then will make every effort to ensure that laws, bills, policies are put in place to empower women are not passed. So, and that has to do with culture, it has to do with religion, it has to do with socialization. And so we really have to, like they would say, break that ceiling and ensure that people are enlightened, because going to school does not necessarily guarantee education. That's what or enlightenment. That's what we've discovered. And so that's why we just have to keep talking, keep harping on the point. And I would say that this year's theme says press for progress. So over time, we've discovered that we do not necessarily, as women's rights activists that want to achieve empowerment of women and girls, that want to break down some of these strongholds, hampering the growth of women.
And in pressing for progress,
to,
what are the things we really want?
Yes, yes,
what do women really want?
That's exactly what I'm saying. In making our point, we don't have to really tear cloth for progress, insult for progress, quarrel for progress. We have to make intelligent discourse. We have to engage people intelligently. We have to push for policies that will change the plight of women. And what do women want? Women just want to be safe. Women want to be counted like every other human being. Women want to be given a place, a convenient atmosphere, environment to thrive like every other person. A woman shouldn't be seen as less of a human because she's a woman. A woman should not be seen as the one who kills her husband simply because the culture says either verbally or non-verbally that a woman becomes the first suspect when the husband dies. A woman should not be subjected to sexual violence and then we allow the culprits go free. A woman should be given opportunity of education like every other child in the family because it's a good deal for everybody when a woman is educated. Everybody benefits. The family benefits. She has fewer children, healthier children. And then she brings extra income to the family, even to her own extended family. So an empowered woman, an encouraged woman, a thriving woman is good for everybody.
Well, some analysts have said that women's rights, the advocacy for women's rights, is a bit of an exaggeration. What's your take on that?
It's not a bit of an exaggeration. In fact, we should be celebrating Women's Day every single day, not just once in a year. We have to remind ourselves, we have to have a review of what has changed.
Yeah, but if you want to celebrate Women's Day every single day, then we should celebrate Men's Day every single day.
No, because women have a lot to catch up with. When you are in a marathon and the man, for instance, is 10 miles ahead and the woman is just starting.
You're playing catch up.
People, you have to play catch up. Maybe when we get to that point that there's the global gender equality, we'll make less of this noise because there's so much to be done. There's so much to be done. Look at, in the last Senate, I think we had about 10 or so women in the Senate. Now we have 7. We are retrogressing. By the president's body language alone, you know that women don't have much at stake.
But whose fault is that? That's because a lot of women are not going into...
But you have to be allowed to. For instance...
Nobody stops you.
No. For instance, in USA, USA is like the bastion of democracy, of enlightenment and all of that. But the populace have had issues electing a woman as president. So there's so many forces that come into play that mitigates the growth of women. Whether we like it or not, there's culture, there's socialization. People don't think that a woman should be head of an office, no matter how educated they are, or that she should be president. How many have we had a woman as governor in this country? That elected governor, we've not had. Maybe one or two came as accidental governors, so to say. So we have to come to a point where we see a woman, not by her physique or by the way we are socialized to look at them as weaker links, but we have to see them as a human being with all the potentials like our male counterparts.
But isn't it ironical that in some areas women want to be described as the weaker sex, and then in other areas you want equality?
Yes, we should pity those women. They need help. They are not enlightened enough. They do not know about their right. And like I said earlier, we don't really have to insult or fight or do this thing. Intelligent discourse. Is there anything really that a man can do that a woman cannot do? There's absolutely nothing of such. And you do not really need parts of your body to do things. You need your brain. This is the era of intelligence, the era of technology. It's about brain. So each time a woman is given a chance, she proves herself, she excels. So why don't we give more and more women a chance?
The opportunity.
Yes.
All right, now, and how much progress do you think women in Africa are making in reversing some of the practices that continue to limit their potentials and threaten their livelihood, so to speak?
I think we are making some progress. Maybe it's slow and steady.
In what areas?
Like, for instance, in the economy, in the economic sector, or commercial sector, you have more women as heads of bank, even in Nigeria, than ever before. You have in South Africa. In fact, in places like South Africa, Senegal, there's gender discrimination is almost zero. because people have come to a certain a level that they think, no, what difference does it make? A woman can do absolutely anything a man can do. And so, and in Nigeria, we're beginning to, women are beginning to take up positions in the economic sector. Women are beginning to take very vital decision-making positions. But in the political, on the political scene, we are retrogressing. We are retrogressing because women in Nigeria do not have the support of the people at the hierarchy. To a very large extent, the kind of person you are, your personality reflects on your policies. It reflects on the goings on around your government. And the president is not someone that is very woman-friendly or thinks that women should be given a place. And he doesn't pretend about it. So we shouldn't be pretending about it. I know you are smiling now.
Yeah,
you want to be friendly. But I'm an activist and I just have to shoot from the hip. Okay, so we really have to keep talking about these things so that we can have changes. Yeah. I keep saying this. The first time the president went on a trip to US after he was elected, there was not a single man in the delegation.
Woman, you mean?
There was not a single woman in the delegation, yes. And so when they got to Washington, the social media became very hot, and in fact, it became ablaze and said, why is there no woman? The fact is that it didn't occur to the president or his men. It just didn't occur to them because to them, women should be in the kitchen. So, I mean, what are they doing in Washington? And then they have to push people, some women, staff of the Nigerian embassy, and say, oh, we saw a woman there. Some women were bent down, writing and all of that. Just to patch up, just to make up. But the fact is that we do not have a woman-friendly president. Maybe a few things have changed in the last 3 years, but there's still room for improvement.
For more change.
There's still room for improvement.
Okay. Now, in the midst of both progress, I mean, because we have made some progress, and setbacks, what is there to really celebrate as women?
There's so much to celebrate as a woman. Just on Facebook, a few days ago, someone said, Betty, you are a man in a woman's body. And I said, please, that's not a compliment. I'm proudly a woman. And I believe that a woman is God's masterpiece creation. A woman is God's masterpiece. Brilliant. A woman walks into the room and everybody turns. How many times have you been in a room and a man walks in and then people turn? That's how God made us to be. And so we've achieved a lot. Women have this natural gift of compassion. Women have this natural gift of intuition. And so when you put a woman in a place of authority, she makes a difference. And because we're coming from a peculiarly patriarchal background, women want to overprove themselves. And then they excel. So the more women you give chances to in every sector, the more the country achieves progress.
Very quickly now, because it will be remiss of me if I don't ask this question before we go. What can government do to address issues like violence against women and girls? Very quickly.
Yes, it's about enforcing the laws. We have all kinds of laws against on sexual violence, domestic violence, but they're not implemented. They are mostly on paper. If we can have them
inequality and pay disparity.
Yes. Pay disparity, we have female genital mutilation. Yeah. But the laws are there, they've been passed, but they're just there as showpieces in the showcase. So if they can be implemented, just recently in Lagos, we have someone sentenced to, I think, about 35-year imprisonment for raping a minor. If all states can take this step and ensure that people that violate these laws, that make women's life unbearable, are punished, it will serve as a deterrence. They should be brought to, so it's not just about putting up the law, it should be about enforcement. It's about showing the political will and ensure that women are protected. Because we need women for any society to progress.
What's the world without a woman?
Yes, so
Betty Abba, gender rights advocate and activist, thank you for joining me on Africa.
Thank you very much, and happy Women's Day in Arias.
International Women's Day.
Yes.
Indeed. Same to you.
Thank you.
Well, in a world where girls are taught to shrink themselves and ladies are forced to limit their ambitions, the key to national prosperity and sustainable development lies in the way women are treated in Africa. No doubt fixing the pieces of the puzzle and pressing for progress would include challenging cultural bias and taking consistent actions to create an environment where every woman can thrive. I have been your guide, Fadisha Lashotingwa. Many thanks for watching and bye for now.